I know what you're thinking. Prag, what is up with all the Gundam reviews? Well, dear viewer, I can't leave this mortal plane of existence until I've reviewed every Gundam video game.
Why are there so many? Oh god.
Hey friends, I am Pragmatik and I like to talk about video games. But today we're not talking about just one, but three. You know what they say, if you love a game enough, or maybe even too much, it'll eventually get a Musuo game spin-off. So let's check these out.
I was only half joking in that intro. Really, there are a ton of franchises that have been given the Koei Tecmo and Omega Force touch of being transformed into a you against the world hack and slash. Surely you know what I'm talking about. Legend of Zelda, Dragon Quest, Fire Emblem, even the hit anime Berserk has its own game with protagonist Guts ripping and tearing through hordes of foes. It's getting harder to find a license that hasn't had their time in the Musuo light. Well, maybe not all of them. Come on, I need this, Bandai, Toei Animation, Naoko Takeuchi. Get together, have that board meeting, and let's get this going. What franchise is more deserving than Sailor Moon? Surely the franchise that literally has a new enemy every week is more than deserving.
Oh no, not the ducks!
I need this. My wife needs this. But I guess beggars can't be choosers because way back in 2007, my wish was granted. At least in the form of the real robot sensation known as Gundam, with the release of the first Gundam Dynasty Warriors, or Dynasty Warriors Gundam. 2007, my junior year of high school. I remember kicking back at a friend's house and just getting lost in the senseless violence, all the while hearing my friend cracking up every time Master Asia threatened to destroy someone's lair.
Do you think you have what it takes to defeat me?
The love for this game was firing off on all cylinders for me, with my reawakened love for the Musuo series that stemmed from the classic Dynasty Warriors 2, the inclusion of all kinds of Gundam franchises, a lot I wasn't even familiar with yet, as I was still getting into Gundam, and the sheer amount of content put into this first game had me coming back for more. And quality was there, folks. Every mobile suit and Gundam felt like one of a kind. A lot of the series voice actors returned to voice their characters.
The enemy force is heading for Jaburo!
All hands, level 1 battle stations.
And the different modes and multiplayer really just kept the game fresh.
But maybe I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Maybe you don't know what a Musuo game is, and if you do know what that is, maybe you don't think it's worth covering each game. Well, I will say that they all do feel a little different, and are kind of worth going over each individually.
If somehow you've never touched the hack and slash genre that is Koei Tecmo's bread and butter, a Musuo game is literally you getting the satisfaction of mowing down waves of enemies. Explaining Dynasty Warriors Gundam is basically explaining any other Musuo game. You choose a character, all with their own unique abilities, and try to cut down generals of an opposing force. It's you with your team versus literal hundreds of grunts and a handful of commanders, usually those from other Gundam franchises. You'll have to beat enough foes in each section to claim their outpost, and then keep doing so until you get to the enemy headquarters, claiming that area or defeating the commander, or having to do both. It's a simple format, and honestly the fun is just the feeling of destroying hundreds of foes with just a few presses of a button. These games are the very definition of swing sword once, 20 enemies fall down. And Gundam is a franchise that resonates well with this type of game format. There are tons of Gundam series, side stories, and spin-offs to give you the option to choose from the multitude of characters, the good and the bad. And while the format for any mode is usually the same, Dynasty Warriors Gundam allows you to go through story mode, which showcases pivotal moments in Gundam series, like Amuro Ray's battle at Aboaku, or Camille Bidan going up against the Humberby team and his rival Jared before sending him into the wreckage of the burning space cruiser, the Radish. Maybe that example sounds like absolute gibberish to you. Well, that's okay. This game in particular can help familiarize you with certain characters in the Gundam series, at least offering you a small glimpse of each series. It was honestly what got me curious about watching earlier Gundam shows. And if that isn't your thing at all and you just want to be a big old robot that smashes a bunch of other big old robots, that's fine too. Because the first Gundam Dynasty Warriors offers an original mode, where a group of 3 characters from different Gundam series are forced to team up together, and brings a pleasant mix of each of their personalities, which I absolutely love. The original mode sets itself on a remote planet, where a lot of our heroes have been sent to. Each team of 3 will have to figure out how to stop this planet's collision course with Earth, and thwart the plans of the self-sentient mobile suit, Musuo Gundam.
You have harnessed this planet's power. Well done. Now, this planet shall fall to Earth. You shall serve as my sword to bring eternal prosperity.
Unbelievable. Is this what we fought for?
Damn. We fought, we won, and now we're the bad guys?
No, that's not right.
Get used to this idea, as it's pretty much the same premise for the third game as well. My personal favorite dynamic is Miliardo Peacecraft's story. He gets teamed up with the hot-blooded G Gundam fighter Domon Kashu and super eccentric cyber new type Epio Puru. Seeing these two kind of serve as a headache for the usually calm Miliardo, and even them eventually bringing him out of his shell, is just a great example of what a game like this should do. Just giving your nerdy desires what they want, letting you see characters that would never get a chance to interact normally do so.
Come on, Miliardo! Proof!
I cannot believe this is happening.
It's something I love personally as a big Gundam fan myself, and this mode alone is what really makes the first game really shine.
I know that these stories aren't very deep or engaging, but I do feel they at least try. But let's get into the real meat of the game. The fighting!
A Dynasty Warriors or Musuo game is only as good as its fighting, and some of the implemented mechanics in each game really make the combat stand out. But for now, just enjoy the sensation of being this giant mechanized war machine that has a seemingly infinite amount of weaponry at its disposal. If your Gundam has beam cannons, it'll use them. If it's got heavy hitting punches, it will lay waste to anything in its way. And beam sabers, oh you know they've got them. What absolutely rocks with the combat is that each grunt, commander, and anything else you defeat all works to level your Gundam up, and gives it access to longer attack combos and even stronger special abilities. Every Musuo game gives their character a special attack that they can use when their meter gauge is full, and in the Gundam series that usually means pulling out your biggest cannon, your strongest beam sword, or just going absolutely nuts into a crowd of opponents. Just watching the screen become filled with opposition only to use your special attack and watch them become nothing but a pile of scrap is so satisfying. Also, a little special note here. I love the little Gundam-esque cut-off death screams some of the grunts will make when you defeat them, or hearing them shout, "No!" before finishing them. So nice. The MVP of absolute devastation goes to Wing Gundam here. Just watching him pull his double beam cannon and ceremoniously dance around the battlefield while firing off his massive beam of energy never gets old. And pretty much any Gundam you choose is pleasing to use. But if you want the job done quick, just choose Wing. What's more, if leveling up your Gundam to extend your special attack isn't enough, you can combine a special with one of your teammates to send you both into a frenzy, and it even extends your combo above whatever level you may be at. Powerful as you are, there are a few hiccups that carry over from a lot of Musuo games, namely being overpowered by a commander, or your team leader going off on their own and being shot down.
Don't give up. If you give up now, all will be lost. Running low on power. Gotta get out of here.
These are things that are notoriously bad in some games, and something we will talk about extensively later. That's right, I'm looking at you, Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2. But yes, while you are able to neutralize wave after wave of mobile suits, taking a few good hits from a commanding officer, or even the last officer, can absolutely devastate your health. And if you drop to 0, that's it for you. The battle is over. That's where the other issue lies. A single battle can take anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes depending on just how much you want to fight. But the more you play, the more you benefit, with defeating commanders and increasing your KO count will level you up, as well as you'll get extra parts to make your mobile suit stronger. The issue of being overpowered wouldn't be such a problem if it wasn't that sometimes you have a team leader that likes to go off on their own route, a team leader that you have no way of healing. In my experience, I don't remember there being a Musuo game that allowed you to heal up a teammate until the Berserk Musuo game. It's just such an issue to me that it's so easy to address, but I guess protecting them is kind of your mission. Still, let me heal people! Dynasty Warriors Gundam is without a doubt my favorite of the trilogy. Even in its lack of other Gundam series characters, its inclusion of story mode as well as an original mode spanning tons of iconic Gundam characters is enough to keep you coming back time and time again. Playing through this game again brought back so many fond memories, and it still seems just as fun as it was back then. Okay, I love you Dynasty Warriors Gundam 1, now let's get into the other ones.
I'll just go ahead and get to the point here. I will say that my personal favorite is probably the first one. There are a lot of additions in the second and third games, but sometimes I feel like they add more, and sometimes they're a little worse.
Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2. Returning a little over 2 years, we'd be seeing expansions to the Mobile Suit roster. This time around we would see more involvement from the Zeta and Double Zeta series, as well as the Char's Counterattack movie, which features my favorite Gundam, New Gundam. Along with the classic series, we'd be getting a lot from the Gundam Seed and Seed Destiny series, plus some extra characters from previous entries and even more classic newcomers like the Gundam F91. Along with the beefed up roster came a new sleek coat of paint for the graphics. A lot of the models in this game come off looking a lot more shaded and detailed. So much of it kind of reminds me of watching the original Gundam and then immediately watching Zeta. It was a welcome upgrade. The story missions would continue with further expansions into the original 3 series, with more episodic fights from the original series and the expansion into the movie Char's Counterattack. But other than that, there isn't much more to story mode. This means that with a brand new game came only a bit more story for the original series. This comes as a bit of a surprise seeing that a lot more series were included in the game. Not that I'm dying to relive every moment of Gundam F91, but come on man.
That's what you get when you mess with me.
Replacing original mode came mission mode. Foregoing an original story, each pilot can undertake missions pertaining to their stories, or can participate in different kinds of missions that unlock different things, like licenses to let certain characters pilot different mobile suits, friendship missions to help unlock characters, or collection missions to get more parts for the newly revamped upgrade system. This time around, parts of each mobile suit could be upgraded, which allowed for abilities and stats to be increased individually in parts of the mobile suit, rather than just getting one part to upgrade random stats. This is another welcome addition as it makes customizing mobile suits a bit more inclusive. Each character can also develop friendships with other characters to help unlock them. The friendships can range from comrades to pure enemies. While this is a unique way to go about the forming alliances, I feel like it doesn't get any more in-depth than that. With so many characters to play as and the overall repetitive nature of the Musuo game, I don't see many people getting too lost in this system. Perhaps the biggest addition to this game was the inclusion of the bigger mobile suits, and I'm talking about the big ones. Psycho Gundam, Big Zom, Devil Gundam, they all make their debut, and let me tell you, they are by far the coolest part and worst part of this game. Having these massive mobile suits show up and wreak havoc on you is honestly amazing, and taking them down is even better. They are one of the more enticing mechanics to get caught up in. You know, when they aren't making you lose your mission by either killing you or your commanding officer. Remember that thing I said about team leaders going off on their own, getting overwhelmed and being shot down, in turn making you lose the mission because you failed to protect them? Yeah, that's a bigger problem in this game. You'll feel like you have to keep a constant eye on them if there is one in your mission, and once that large mobile suit shows up, you'll need to drop what you're doing and make sure your team leader isn't trying to fight it one-on-one, because they'll die. They just will. There's just nothing more to that. It's frustrating to be 10 minutes into a mission only for it to end in seconds because your team leader wanted to go fight a big robot. And honestly, if you're not careful, the exact same thing can happen to you. Just make sure you're equipped to deal with a giant mobile suit before diving right in. On a more positive note, the mission modes also include one of the best mechanics in any of the games: random event encounters. During nearly any mission, a random series of events can occur. Sometimes two rivals will show up, and if you defeat them, they'll join your side. Sometimes a group of popular side characters will show up and attack you in grunt mobile suits. Camille Bidon and Shirako Patimus will randomly show up just to spout nonsense at each other, and one of my favorite events, sometimes the Black TriStar will show up for no reason and try to shoot you down.
No regular guy, that's one fantastic pilot. Ortegan and Mash, we're gonna pull a jet stream attack from that there mobile suit.
Being from the South, I always appreciate the Black TriStar. While I do feel this game has one of the best mechanics in the entire franchise, I don't feel Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2 brings that much more to the table. While there is a much better look, fun events, and even more characters, this one just didn't grip me as hard. And I feel that may just be my opinion, as I have heard from others that this one is their favorite, citing the writing for the game being a major plus. For me, I rather enjoyed the intermingling of the different characters, but kind of enjoyed the way it was done more in the first game. Along with these sometimes unfair encounters, I feel this game has a few bugs, like getting knocked up into the air can get yourself air juggled for a period of time. Sometimes certain voice actors are shown giving a voice line for the wrong character.
They're still trying to take down the White Base. I'm not letting anyone near White Base.
That's supposed to be Hayato, I believe. And while all installments of this series are guilty of this, I feel that 2 carries the biggest sin of overused phrases. I'm looking at you, Kira Yamato.
To be perfectly honest, I would say that Dynasty Warriors Gundam 2 is probably the one I played the least amount of, but that's mostly due in part to its frustrating variables. And then 3 came along, and it got better, and a little weird.
Dynasty Warriors Gundam 3. What a treat. No, seriously, 3 saw the most amount of mobile suits get added to the roster by far. Colors were brightened, and the explosions and other particle effects were revamped to appeal more to the fans of the Gundam series itself. And personally, I think they did a good job. Taking in the sleeker, shaded design of Gundam Dynasty Warriors 2 was a welcome look, but an overall look that hits closer to the original source is a bit more pleasant, as well as more sensible in my opinion.
Someday, the world will be flooded with the light within the human heart. To create the future, we have to change ourselves!
I will watch the warriors of this tale to ensure they accomplish their task. In the battles that are to come.
This new installment also meant that we'd finally be getting some of the mobile suits we'd been hoping for, like the main 5 Gundams from Gundam Wing, the inclusion of 00, and the recent at the time, Gundam Unicorn.
Well, look who's here. You sure have guts.
And finally, Gundam 0083, Stardust Memory.
Color Rocky! I love that little failure of a pilot. Dude can't even eat carrots. Love him.
While the first game will always be my favorite, I can't deny that Gundam Dynasty Warriors 3 may just be the best of the series. Everything was reworked to better reflect storytelling as well as gameplay, and it shows without a doubt. One thing that always needed to work were the battlefields in general, and Gundam Dynasty Warriors 3 enhances them in every conceivable way. The fields you can conquer now have importance. You'll have to deal with a communication field that can send reinforcements to other fields, a missile base which can launch a strike down on other fields, a new type of laboratory which strengthens the army as a whole, a repair hangar that heals allied units, thank God, a fortress that makes all the fields harder to conquer, and possibly the most useful field, a catapult field, which acts as a type of fast travel. This adjustment makes every field worth taking, and you want all of those elements working for you and not against you in your playthrough. Instead of just rushing towards the enemy headquarters, you're now strategizing the best way to make the war zone work in your favor, playing the game how it should be played. And even grunts are a force to be reckoned with. Instead of just taking the occasional swipe at you, they'll now try to coordinate attacks against you and knock you off balance, and are now even capable of charge attacks to do more damage. This won't stop you from feeling like an absolute beast as you tear your way through waves and waves of foes. Should you perform your move right, it's so satisfying to watch a group of enemies set off this big chain explosion, leaving nothing standing in your wake. Feeling like you need an extra backup, but also not sure if you want to hang around your allies? Well, 3 has the solution, as now you can befriend and enlist certain pilots and mobile suits to be your partner in battle. Hitting the button when your partner's gauge is full allows you to call them out, backing you up in battle for a short while.
With me.
It's something I felt was kind of needed solely for the sheer amount of characters there are in this game. All manner of mobile suit and pilot can be leveled up, and parts as well as moves can be purchased to power up your Gundam, just like in previous entries. There's also a bigger focus on including the use of lower class type mobile suits like the Zaku or even the simple ball unit. Going through stages with these suits makes for a much more challenging playthrough. As much as I've played this game, I know I didn't get anywhere near maxing out all the pilots and Gundams that were available. There is just so much to do in this game. While lacking the inclusion of a 3-man team, the story mode does well enough to try and combine original storytelling with existing character backgrounds and lore. In a mimicry of the first game, we see our familiar faces get warped to a mysterious planet and must group up with other characters throughout the story. The divided participants of the story are labeled as those who understand, those who doubt, those who pass by, and those who fight. Each of these teams fight against and interact with the other ones, until they all come to the same conclusion, enacting the final acts for the story, for peace, for reform, and for victory. I honestly like this one. It hits close to how much I like the inclusion of characters from the first game, but the interactions happen more through visual novel style dialogue more so than actual cutscenes. There are a lot of characters that take part in each section of the story, so you'll most likely find one character you like to help you get through the section. But honestly, every mobile suit feels unique and well constructed, and it's just great to see such a vast variety of series and suits get mixed into it all. From Stardust Memory to Unicorn, you'll lose hours trying to find out just which one is your favorite. And that's good. That's what a game like this should offer you. Endless variety and gameplay that keeps you satisfied. While I have no shame in admitting this version is probably the best of the 3, there was just one thing that I refuse to overlook about this one. And it's the most arbitrary and pointless thing to talk about, but I absolutely have to. Firstly, I want to say that I love dialogue shared between characters. It serves to help flesh out the relationships between each character, be it rivalry, hatred, or a bond of trust. Mixing dialogue between characters between battles seems like the no-brainer thing to do. That said, Gundam Dynasty Warriors 3 is a glowing example of how not to do this. Now I know that mixing in all this person-to-person dialogue would be that much more to work on, adding to the massive amount of voices and dialogue that already exist in this game, but the way this plays out is just ridiculous. But I also kind of love it. Instead of making each character say something to another that makes sense, each character has a few random statements that they'll just blurt out alongside other characters. And while this can sometimes work, there are a lot of times that these statements hold no connection to one another and just sound awful.
I can't believe how many I've taken out. Why don't they see the futility of this?
Too slow. There's no point in giving up, right?
Then grant all of those ignorant people some of your wisdom right now.
I understand how people feel.
We are Gundams!
Seriously, there is no limit to how stupid these can end up being. But if that's about all I can pull to say something negative about this game, then that's a good thing. I've stated multiple times now that the first game is my favorite, but there is no denying that Dynasty Warriors Gundam 3 will probably give you the most bang for your buck. I know there is also the Gundam Reborn game that kind of reworked a lot of the best elements into its build, and the whole video itself could probably be made of it, but I have no knowledge of it sadly. So that's why I stuck to these 3 alone. The truth is that there is no bad place to start. Each game is something all their own, and chances are you might find you like one more than the other. Musuo games are at their core pretty much all the same, but there is always one that you will find to be your favorite. Now get out there and pilot those gyrate smashing robots. And thanks for watching. Thanks for checking out my review of the Dynasty Warriors Gundam Series. This one was a long one, and I honestly hope there are people out there that enjoyed these games as much as I did. If you did, tell me your favorites, or tell me if you're interested in playing one of them. Liking the video helps, and consider subscribing if you're new. As always, have a great day, and keep it practical.